We have audio and the live stream is running.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is the Village of New Paltz Planning Board meeting for April 18th, 2023. We have some administrative business we need to go over. We have 3 public hearings, and then we have 4 public hearings, excuse me. And then we have a number of applications to go through in some depth. So let's just get right to it. So the first thing we want to do as part of our administrative business is to get any updates from the Ulster County Planning Board, and Paul for requesting the planning board. And is Will Murray available?
No, I don't see him
Okay.
here tonight.
So we're going to move on. The next thing we want to do is look at the minutes from April third or 4th.
Fourth.
Or did everyone get a chance to look at those?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is our last one. We do have one extension, but I do need to get a motion to approve the minutes from April 4th. Meeting second. Here's the meeting. So the 3 of us will vote on this. All in favor? Aye. Very good. So those have been approved. Next thing we're going to do is we need to discuss PB 2008 64 Plains Road. The applicant is working on finalizing the easement documents, and he requests an extension of the condition of approval. So what we're going to do is we're going to ask for an extension for PB 2008 64 Plains Road. This will give him a period of 90 days to work through the easement document. So I'd like to get a motion to extend the conditional approval subdivision. Excuse me. I'd like a motion to extend the conditional subdivision approval of PB 2008 for a period of 90 days. Second. All in favor? Aye. So that's taken care of. Next thing we want to do is any public comments. Do we have anybody that is online public comment?
There are 3 guests in the room,
So let's go ahead
and one of them,
Hi.
Linda, speaking now.
Yes. Good morning or good afternoon. How is everybody?
If you could just introduce yourself, please.
Yes, it's Linda Schwartz. I live on Route 32 North in New Paltz. I've been remote one time for this meeting, and the last one I came and spoke in person. So, thank you for giving me a little bit of time to just express my concerns. I really do appreciate you listening to, what I have, brought up. I just wanted to give an update on the Department of Transportation, the New York State Department of Transportation. I called over to the Ulster County and talked to a Robert Leibowitz, and he told me that I was not capable to request to have the traffic reduced, the speed reduced on Route 32 North, that it would have to come directly from the village as a request to the New York State Department of Transportation. He said that there was a form that needed to be filled out, and he was going to send it to me, but I have not received it. So I just wanted to bring up that that's kind of where I'm at with, the request to have the speed reduced. And I don't know where to look for the current traffic study. I know that it was quite a large document, and I don't know when that would be available.
Okay. First off, thank you for appearing and for being concerned and contributing. We do appreciate that. If you would be so kind as to get those comments and the form that Rob sends you to Autumn, that would be helpful, because then she can get that to us, and she can also bring that before the Village of New Paltz Board of Trustees, because he is right that the request would have to come from them. So if you could do that, that would be very helpful.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I think that's about it. Anything else that we can help you with?
He mentioned something about, I know that I saw a couple people come, it was about 4 or 5 people that came across the street from us looking at the telephone poles. And he mentioned something about trying to get a sidewalk to BOCES, so I don't know how true that is.
I mean, a sidewalk, what, I'm sorry?
All the way to BOCES.
Oh, all the way to BOCES. Interesting.
He just, yeah, he just mentioned that, and like 4 days later, somebody was out here looking at poles. They were writing down the numbers on the poles. So I don't know if anything correlates with what they had as far as their meeting, but he did say that Agway was meeting with them last week at night for some stuff, for some town meeting over in Ulster County too. So I don't know what happened with that.
Interesting. I have no idea. Those 2 particular applications will be up tonight, so you might want to just hang on and listen as they come forward.
Okay, thank you. Thank you again.
You're very welcome. Autumn, and the next person?
Online, I'm not sure if you have comments.
Okay. Is there anyone else online that that has a comment? If you could raise your hand and Autumn can let you in. No? Okay, if you do have a comment and don't understand how to raise your hand through this platform, if you could just state your name. No? Okay. So then we're going to turn to the audience here. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in general comments about any of the applications before the board? All right, we'll start here. Yes, sir.
Yes, concerning number 2, the site plan on Cooper Street. I'm representing Village Arms, the board of the condo association at Village Arms.
Mm-hmm.
And we're concerned about drainage from the 6 homes. A preface to that is that there's been an increase in groundwater entering our basements over the last 10 years, basically since the development to the east of us took place. Of course, we also have more frequent and more intense storms due to global warming, but the shallow groundwater that's infiltrated basements has caused damage. We've had a wall replacement. We've had more frequent sump pump replacements because they're burning out because they're running so much.
Mm-hmm.
So we have an issue with drainage, and it's due to the topography. We have bedrock under us and hard pan clay, different locations at relatively shallow depth. So we have shallow running groundwater. It's coming down the hill, and of course, more of it comes down the hill than it used to because up the hill isn't forested anymore. They did a nice job of drainage up there so far, but nevertheless, when you put impervious surface on, you get more groundwater.
Right, right.
So now the last piece, the piece westmost closest to us, is about to be developed, and they're doing some nice things, and we note that in their attachment to the site plan review. Item 2, they talk about the harmony of site plan number 3, they talk about the houses being significantly lower than the houses above them to the east, so that people won't have their views ruined. But if you look at the plan view, the elevation view, you can see that they're lowering the grade, and then they're sloping the grade to the west, right toward us. So they're going to make it worse. There is good storm drainage in Cooper Street, but these lots, all 6 of them, are going to be draining toward us, toward an already wet area. What we'd like to do is see an engineering report about how much water that will be, and the TR55 or whatever is the correct model for modeling drainage these days. We would like to see them provide some quantification, knowing that given global warming, we're going to have more intense storms. Whatever they quantify, it's going to be worse if they're using old models. And then my suggested solution is a clay key along the eastmost portion of that property. I'm sorry, westmost portion of the property where it borders us. They show some minor vegetation there. And if just before that vegetation, you have a 5 or 10 foot deep impervious surface, probably a clay key, but there are other engineering solutions. And then something has to be done with that water, or they're going to have a puddle in their backyards. So they're going to need a drainage swale and on the surface to catch the surface water, deep trench drain at the bottom, and then they're going to have a pump to pump that water back up to Cooper Street, where there's very adequate storm drainage already provided for the street. If they intersect one of those existing storm drains, it'll be fine. That raises questions for them, I'm sure, about ownership, who has to own the pump station, given that there's 6 separate owners to these lots, but that's not my problem. However, the developer wants to work that out in terms of easements and agreements between people, as long as that water that's going to shed off of this, whatever it is, acre or so site, isn't coming to us, because we're already bank full.
Right.
You know, it's not that it's so much, but we're already having an issue, and it's already gotten worse from the development to our west, to our east. We don't want to see anything.
That's a lot of information, and that's good detailed information. And I'm going to ask you if you would do us the kind favor of and just putting that into an email. And if you could send that to Autumn, that way there are some technical details that we can then go to our engineer and ask our engineer to study this. What does he think about this? We can discuss it on the board and in more depth. But it's a lot of technical information for 5 minutes here.
Sure.
But we're glad you sent it, and we're glad you wrote it. So Autumn, you want to give the email address, please?
Planning and zoning or planning zoning?
There's that big swale at
At?
the bottom of the hill.
What's that?
That's
At?
villageofnewpulse.org.
Village of New Paltz.
There is a swale.
Yeah.
And when it sits half full, we're soaking even more water and driving water that may be under the ground isn't going to surface there anymore. It's going to stay under the ground until it hits our basements, which, because we are downhill, are deeper. So then it hits the basement near or the crawl space at the bottom and then floods the basement and keep mold from developing. We have to constantly pump. And we accept that. We just don't want it to get worse.
Right.
And you'll note in the drawing, they're changing the slope of the ground in order that the first floor, which they're very proud of, their first floor, which faces west, is lower, so that their second floor isn't so high that it blocks view. And I think that's a great design feature. It just needs something now to catch the water that's running down that slope. Because right now, actually, from the curve, you go up and it's flat, and then there's a very steep slope. They're gonna make that slope cover most of the area, and at least according to this drawing, we don't have a top topos. So it would be great if there were topos as part of the engineering report, but I'll put all that in the email.
If you would, because those are requests that we can make, especially to getting a more of a topographical map. We can address the concerns about drainage. We can ask the applicant to address them as well. And if you have them all in a written detail, that's going to make it easier for us and easier for the applicant to address specific things rather than generalize.
Right. I'm not a design engineer, and I don't have the time to make detailed measurements and stuff like that, but I will provide a detailed explanation of what I just presented. So the engineer then wrestle with it in their engineering way.
Great. Thank you very much. Other people that wanted to speak tonight, I believe, this.
One comment about this being a general public comment, not the public hearing.
Yes.
Okay.
So these are, again, general comments, and we do have a public hearing for this specific site plan. So if you have something that is as detailed and specific as this, if you can wait until we have the public hearing, which will occur as the second item in the public hearings. So other general comments, excuse me, just maybe go ahead and reach out to this lady who came in earlier.
My property will be right next to. And once again, when Stan has mentioned the water problem, I have, with the rain, my backyard is full of water. There is a hill right now with larger trees. And I've noticed that what looks like a building corner is going to require that a lot of those trees be taken down, which is soaking up some of the water. When those are removed, I'm going to have a problem. And if this engineering solution, if something comes up that will help the condominiums, it may not help the houses that are next to that. We might end up with all the water. And also, I'm wondering why the setbacks are so narrow.
Setbacks are a standard distance that are dictated by the code, and they're R3 is 7 feet.
Side yards, all permitted uses 12.5 feet per side, except for abutting a residence or residential district. Then the planning board may require up to 50 feet. Additional rear yard to provide adequate buffers and safeguards to protect adjacent uses from nuisance characteristics. The rear yard requirement is 25 feet, except where abutting a residence other than a multifamily residence on a lower density residential zone. Then the planning board may require up to 50 feet additional rear yard to provide adequate buffers and safeguards.
So I'm putting this. Looking at, does that qualify as requiring more space? And their backyard would be against my backyard.
This is something that I think we're going to need to get our building inspector to weigh in on and to take a look at. Okay, all right. So Autumn can make a note there, setback issue. And we'll get Corey to address this. And if you can note to Corey to have him follow up with me on that, that way we can make sure that it gets addressed quickly. Very good, thank you. And I believe you, sir.
Yes, I'm concerned about where Agway is. I believe there's going to be a apartment building with commercial space underneath.
Correct, yes.
Okay. How high is that going to be?
The plans have been, are available for you to look at. The height, I believe at one point is going to need to go for a height variance. What is it, 40 feet for the 2-story?
I think Trail has a variance, but the Agway building does not have a variance.
Oh, you're right,
If I remember
you're right.
correctly, so it's 36 feet.
36 feet is so it's within the height restrictions.
So is that similar to Zero Place or lower?
Lower,
Lower than Zero.
yes.
Okay, so my main concern then really is that I believe that on Montague View Drive there and Route 32, we need a traffic. There have been several accidents and very close calls. If you're familiar with it, when you turn in on Montague View, the driveway that comes out of my market
Right.
is very close. And so what I see a lot of times is people are turning left into Bottic View.
Mhm.
And the people coming out of my market are really not necessarily aware
Right.
that that's happening. Plus, you're gonna be adding, I heard it was something like 63 apartments.
Mhm.
All right, so then now you're gonna have that track. What I would really like to see is a traffic light.
Okay. Couple of things here to discuss with you, or just to inform you about. There's a traffic study that's been done, and they've looked at the amount of traffic that's going to be coming through here. That's publicly available. You might want to look at that and just to kind of get an idea of what the traffic flow is
Well,
going to be.
I live there, so I know what the traffic's like.
Yes, but what they're saying is the additional traffic added to that would be X number of automobiles per hour and different time periods. So it's going to inform you a little bit more in detail about what's going on. Second thing is that in terms of that street and in terms of trying to manage the traffic through traffic lights and other aspects, that's something that the planning board is not empowered to do. That's going to come from the Village of New Paltz Board of Trustees, just as someone was making a comment about it earlier. So, oh yes, the lady that was online. So that's going to be where you need to apply some pressure. You may want to write an email to them, find someone who is on the Board of Trustees and discuss that with them, make calls to them. I think that that's appropriate, appear at the Board of Trustees when they have their meetings, because that's something that they would have to do. It's not that we disagree, and we can say that we believe that there needs to be one based upon the traffic study, but the action to get it done is going to lie with them. We can tell them we believe this needs to be done, but they're going to be responsible for the action.
So I have to contact the Board of Trust,
Yes, sir.
which this man over here already has. You already have the email with that.
Well, this is for planning and zoning.
Oh,
But she also assists with the Board of Trustees. So if you send the email to that address, then she can forward that on to the Board of Trustees.
okay.
But nothing is.
I just really think for safety, you've got Duquesne
Yeah.
Elementary School right down the block, which also does not have a stoplight.
We understand, and in large part, I think we agree on the general notion that there needs to be some traffic mitigation efforts to reduce the perhaps speed.
Well, I think it's also just a matter of the extra traffic that's going to be coming in from the apartment buildings that you already have very close calls. I live there. You have very close calls. You have accidents. There's been several accidents. And I would hate to see this go to X amount of people have to be killed before we put in the stoplight.
Yeah. No, I agree. Okay, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I tried to join the meeting and it says the meeting ID doesn't exist. I tried multiple times.
There's probably a typo. It's posted on the website as well. Sorry if there was an error.
I'm sorry. Is there something you would like to speak to us publicly about now that you're here in person?
No, I think you're catching me up that you haven't started your business yet, right?
Right, correct. This is still public comment, so. No, it's fine. Any other public comments? Yes, ma'am. The traffic study is available. Autumn, you want to give the link or you want to?
We have a number of application files that are publicly available for every single one of these applications that's on this agenda and all of our agendas for the entire year. They are linked on the village website, on the planning board page. You can also contact me directly and I will send you links. We are dealing with a significant number of applications, so I appreciate that you would try to go to the page and look. And otherwise, please direct your questions directly to me during the day and I'll do my best to help you.
Any more public comments?
Just for the record, it says that you asked us to announce yourself and I didn't, I'm Matt Bird from Village Office,
Very good. Okay.
GURD.
Very good. Okay. So with that, we will be closing the public comments section of the meeting. So we are going to then move to public hearings. First one is PB 2310, 23 Mill Rock Road. Application for site review to construct a 15 by 20 foot screened in porch on the back of an existing dwelling. Applicant obtained the site plan approval in 2021. It has expired and he has reapplied for the approval of the same application. So we're going to first get a motion to open the public hearing.
So move.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
So is there anyone here to speak specifically to PB 2310, 23 Mill Rock Road? Hearing none, I would like to get a motion to close the public hearing.
So move.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
So moving on, now we have PB 2210, 6810 Cooper Street. This application to construct 3 two-family detached dwellings, 6 3-bedroom units in total on 3 separate vacant properties. The Board of Trustees changed the zoning of the property from R1 to R3 by local law 3. And so now we are going to ask for a motion to open the public hearing.
Move.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So is there anyone here to speak specifically to PB 2218, 6810 Cooper Street? I know we had Mr. Bird who spoke earlier, but is there anyone here who wants to speak directly to that application? Yes, sir.
Those townhouses are right behind where I live in Village Arms,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been there for 30 years already. And so, I mean, since the beginning of time, but anyway, that, the way that is graded over there, I'm very concerned about how that is going to finally work out. How long before we have some sort of idea exactly what is being planned and how we can be involved in talking specifically with someone that matters about, we don't like what you're doing, or we want to have something, because they already have built that way up so that it drains down on our property, and we've had to spend a lot of money to keep the water out of the basements already. Now I assume from the way it's graded that it's gonna again come right down onto our property. Now, I'm pretty sure I got here late, but I think Matt talks about a French drain and stuff there.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mhm.
I don't know where this stands. How long before they're talking about breaking ground?
Well, we're still in process, and it's not going to be anytime soon. We still have to go through the public hearing process that we're going through here. We have to discuss the site plans. There are some changes that will need to be made. Now that you've added the idea of draining, we're going to have to ask our village engineer to take a look at that. We're going to have our Corey, our code officer, to take a look at some things as well. So it's not anytime soon. I think you're coming to the right forum to have your concerns stated and noted, and this is all being recorded, and our Autumn here is taking care of all the notes on it, so this will all be added as part of this information. So you're doing the right things. Now we'll have to discuss the with the applicant. We'll have to make some discussions about the drainage, and then we're gonna have to take a sense of the board of what we want to do in order to get something.
Because, I mean, we also work with our management company, Spinnaker Management, and when they started digging back there and whatnot, besides me being involved, Spinnaker Management, Neil Topplin's got involved with talking to people, and I'm pretty sure that people that are doing this now are not the same people that we're doing. I know it's not the original one. This might be the third person.
Mhm.
Yes, but so I need, what I really want when the time comes is to be able to be notified so that we can actually sit down and talk to the people that are going to be building this.
Mhm.
So that it registers with them our real concerns, so that we don't get blown off.
Right. No, I understand. Yeah. The applicant will be here tonight, and the applicant will be, because we will be looking at this site plan in a little bit more detail. And we can ask the applicant to reach out to you to talk to you specifically about this. And having worked with this applicant before, I feel confident that they will do that. So that's how it gets started.
Okay, thank you.
You're
Do
welcome.
you need my name?
If you would, please.
Marco. Dale. Demarco. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else here to speak? Yes, ma'am.
Have been very close to property. And
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wanting to speak directly to this specific application? Yes, ma'am.
Are there considerations for dark sky, compliance?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
that will be part of the site plans, part of the plans that he makes for the specific houses. Yes, ma'am. Okay, so I would like to now get a motion to close the public hearing for PB 2218. Second?
Is that implying closing it permanently or just?
Oh, excuse me. You know what? We do have some questions that are open. Thank you. Thank you for catching that. So I think that what we're going to try to do then is keep this public hearing open. Is that sense of the board there? I'm getting a nod of one head, two heads.
That's fine.
So want then to get a motion to keep this public hearing open until the next board meeting, which is May 2nd. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So this public hearing will stay open until we can address some of these issues more effectively until May 2nd. Very good. So moving on now, we have a public hearing for PB 2302, 145 North Chestnut Street, KES Chestnut Properties. Application for site plan special use permit to approve demolish the former Agway and construct a 3-story mixed-use building, 68 residential units, 2 studios, and so on. 7,219 square foot retail space, associated site development. It is on 2.49 acres along North Chestnut. So I'd like to get a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
Second, okay, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is there anyone here that wants to speak directly to PB 2302 145 North Chestnut? Yes, sir.
Okay, so besides needing a traffic light, is there gonna be enough parking?
There is a requirement for parking based upon.
Because I know Zero Place,
Mhm.
they don't have enough.
Okay, well, there's a discrete difference between enough as people coming for various activities there and what is required.
Say visiting or whatever.
Right.
What I'm saying is that Zero Place, which is, is there. There is not enough parking for people who are either visiting or living there or whatever is going on.
This application has a requirement based upon the number of bedrooms that it has and then the amount of commercial retail space. And we
Which
can.
would be what? How many parking places is?
I think.
Let's see
You
here.
got 68 apartments.
The site plans are available online if you want to view them.
And that's going to be the best. That's going to be the best way to find out. I can't off the top of my head. Again,
Fortunately, I'm not very computer savvy, so.
that application will be. Let's see, it's on for review tonight, I believe. Yes, it is. So if you want to wait, we can ask them when the review comes, the exact number of parking spaces that they have for that application.
Yeah, I'm just recommending to the board or to
Mhm.
whoever is looking out for the things going well,
Mhm.
traffic light and enough parking places. And then I think we would have a fairly good situation. But if we don't have enough parking places or a traffic light, I think we're gonna have trouble.
You got it.
That application has
Thank you.
104 parking spaces on site and 112 with street parking as of this meeting.
So street parking on what, 32?
There is a proposal to have some modifications done, which would allow street parking, but that's
So
not
you could
been,
expand 32.
no.
So how are you gonna have street parking?
It is going to involve certain curb modifications, but that has not been finalized. We have not yet agreed to that. It's still in study. This application is, like all of them that are on here tonight, except for a couple of them, is still in process. And so we're still having discussions with the applicants about a number of different things. And parking is one of them. And then we have to look at the information that the Department of Transportation, NISDOT, has sent and what their concerns are, because they will essentially have the last word on that. So the best I can tell you is to stay tuned and listen as we go through this. And then we can follow up with some of the plans and the notes that are handed out. So we're working on it. Nothing's been decided yet, but we're definitely in the mix on it.
Yeah, I'm just here to kind of
No.
voice my concerns because I live there
Mhm.
and have experienced the already problems or accidents that have happened from people turning off of 32 and trying to go up onto View because my market's driveway does not have it's not set back very far from 32. So what happens is people make a left. The people coming out of my market aren't really looking and you have accidents.
Agreed. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry. so
Hi, this is Linda.
One moment, please, ma'am.
NAUMANN.
So anyone else that wants to speak specifically to that application, I believe someone from the platform wants to speak. Linda?
Yeah, it's Linda. Thank you. Is there any street lights going in? Just when you were talking about some street parking and the sidewalks and stuff, I just wanted to ask. I know there's some, or used to be some up on the hill as you go past the apartments, and I think that they couldn't get those repaired, so they're not in service anymore. But it's just an interesting thing if we're going to be having people parking on the side of the road with more people walking up and down, if that's in the plan.
I agree with what she's saying.
Okay.
The street lights aren't enough.
Hold on. So we will address that when the application comes up. Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else that wants to speak? Yes, sir.
The Walker Land Trust, I'm the board treasurer. And one of the principles of this project shared with us their plans and potential impact on the rail trail. And their designs to coordinate, integrate with access to the rail trail and including the residents of the proposed property. And we found that they were very respectful of integrating with the rail trail, just like Zero Place was. And we were very satisfied with their explanation of how It's not going to have any sort of negative environmental impact on the rail trail from the layout and structure. That was as of a month ago. We've spoken of modifications since then, but as of a month ago, the Walkaway Land Trust has felt that their designs and all other sensitive aspects to it have been very recognizing of the special nature of the rail trail line.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak to this application? In public hearing? No? So I am now going to ask for a motion to adjourn the public hearing until our following meeting, because there are some pieces of information that we need to work on going forward. So I'd like to get a motion to adjourn the public hearing until the May 3rd meeting. So we are going to leave it open May 3rd till May 3rd meeting.
So motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. So our next one is PB 2211, 137 Chestnut Street Trail Link. This is the neighboring property, application for site plan and special use permits. Approval to construct a 64,000 square foot, 3-story mixed use building, 51 residential units, 2,980 square feet of office space, 2,980 square feet of retail space on a 3-acre parcel. So I'd like to get a motion to open the public hearing. Second, all in favor? Aye. So the public hearing is now open. Is there anyone here willing or wishing to speak to PB 2211? This is the public hearing only.
Can I share one piece of information?
No, we'd like to have you wait until you make your formal presentation.
Mr. Chairman, it is relevant, though.
I understand. We were trying to move some things through here, and I understand you want to address it, and I think that we should, but I think that it may be a bit more appropriate at the time that we discuss the entire
It
application.
might take a public comment. It's to do with the variance, the height variance. And the fact that we do not require one now.
Okay, that's something that we can discuss at the application review. So is there anyone here that wants to speak from the public?
Is that right next to where Agway is?
Yes,
So it's where Gateway used to be.
yes.
And what's gonna go on there?
It has a mixed-use development plan that's going to be a 3-story mixed-use building, 51 residential units, and it's also going to have commercial and office space. Yes, sir.
So we're right across the street. We're very concerned about that plan also, which I don't know much about other than the plan, what you're telling me. So again, just like what's happening behind us, we have to be involved in knowing exactly what's gonna happen. How it's gonna go down. I mean, there's people concerned about that live in the front buildings 1 through 4 where Village Arms is, what they're going to see. You know, they're already talking about whether they're gonna put trees up, how we, you know, the view of the mountain and all that kind of stuff, you know. So I'm just stating that we are concerned, we need to know exactly what's gonna happen before it happens over there.
Understood. And these meetings are the way that you'll get that information.
All right, I just want to be on the record.
So we do have a couple of comments that have come in by email. One of them is from Judy Reichler. You sent both of them, didn't you? So I'll just read from there unless we want to get a copy of those. From Ms. Reichler, it says, greetings, thank you for allowing comments to continue following the March 21st public hearing regarding the trail link proposal. I'd like to add comments in 2 areas of traffic and lighting. First, let me say that I'm excited about good multi-use development along North Chestnut Street corridor. Among other things, the flatness of the terrain makes it easy to navigate for all pedestrians, and adding residential use in the village will add to its vibrancy. By way of introduction, I currently reside in one of the condos at Village Arms. Once says some may remember that I was once a New Paltz town judge. More to the point, though, I'm a walker and biker, and former member of the Bike Ped Committee. And for some reason I can't explain, I'm kind of a traffic flow observer nerd. So first I'll address traffic concerns, ingress and egress. Currently is not an easy task to make a left turn from the Village Arms complex to go toward town. At the very least, the entrances should not be directly across from each other unless there's light, which is probably only in our dreams. Crosswalks, one of my fellow traffic flow nerd observers observations is this: it is a common practice these days to have a slip lane where possible so that drivers don't need to stop behind a car that is turning. A great idea. Unfortunately, though, many drivers accustomed to not stopping when a car is turning are using the shoulder as a make-do slip lane. This practice is particularly dangerous when the stop car is waiting for pedestrians using a crosswalk. Crosswalk that's currently opposite Village Arms is a perfect example. More than once, as I waited to cross there, with cars driving in both directions, stopped. A car heading north has simply driven onto the shoulder to get around the car stopped at the crosswalk, almost hitting me. Not a fan of what I call unprotected crosswalks of any kind, things that they attract their own dangers. But this is a particular problem and one that can be avoided by making it impossible for a car to use the shoulder at the crosswalks. As things are now, the shoulders on Route 32 are very broad. Lighting concerns. Do we all hate LED lights? Well, not the person paying the bill, but everyone else. In addition to being glaring, my observation is that these lights are bright to the eye, but don't really flood the parking lots with light. When we use floodlights, there was a shield that directed the light towards its intended target. For a reason I don't understand, LED lights are put in naked. They don't light up the loft as well, so they serious discomfort to everyone involving it. So she then goes on to say that she knows that we will be discussing information about the lights. So we will enter that into the record. I don't seem to find the other one that we had there.
We received one comment via email about 6810 Cooper Street expressing my husband and I own the Village Farms apartments in the northeast corner of the complex. Please carefully consider draining plans to ensure the water is direct away.
Okay, yeah, we can, yeah, we'll enter that one into that. So I believe that's all then on PB 2211, 137 North Chestnut Street. Is there anyone else here that is here to speak? Yes, sir.
I misspoke a moment ago. I confused the Agway Gateway acreage and comments I made on the prior application, which they apply to this. But the Walking Valley Land Trust has found that there's been a great consideration for the environmental and public access aspects of this project.
Thank you.
So to be clear, has the land trust looked at the other application yet?
No, so
Okay.
I have no opinion on that. We looked at this application and found it to be very thoughtful.
You okay with the bridge?
Sorry?
Were you okay with the bridge? They were talking about putting a bridge in. Did you see an application that had a bridge in it or one that didn't?
I did. I think there was a little bit of a waterway.
Yeah, well,
Had to create a footpath over.
Yeah, because you have to, there's what used to be a beaver until then is now just kind of like a ditch with water and there's some felled trees or whatever, but you can't really walk across it, you know, you have to have a little bridge.
Our general approach is that first and foremost, there should be no commercial use of that property, including the maybe it's a 5 or 10 foot buffer on each side. And moreover, anything that increases access to the trail from tenants in a way that does not trample on the environmental, nor the removal of trees required passes muster. So I'm not really an environmental scientist or engineer, so I can't go too far into that, but from what we were explained, we were told that there's not going to be any significant alteration beyond the easier access to the rail trail, which to us is a net positive.
Yes, great.
Thanks.
Thank you. So I would like to get a motion to hold this public hearing open.
I would like to.
Sorry. Yes,
Addressed the board at the last meeting, you may remember I'm a landlord in town with many properties. I also belong to a landlord group, between 20 and 30 members. All of us are in favor of creating more housing. So while that's a general comment, I feel particularly here, more housing is being created. And I think you might have remembered that that has the potential to economically reduce the value of my housing, but I still feel it's so important. And for people who might not be involved in the rental market, I just want to describe how desperate it is for students. I have students call, I haven't even advertised my properties. They were looking at past ads from past years, calling me up. Firstly, all the landlords who rent to students are full, people are asking. So New Paltz desperately needs more housing. And, this has been zoned for mixed use, and this is a project that has both commercial and more housing. I just think it's an excellent project. Thank you.
thank you. And your name again, sir?
Last name is Scherer, which is SCHERRER.
Thank you. Yes.
Public hearing, and we're willing to waive the limitation.
Thoughts from the board?
Can you explain the 62-day provision that she's describing?
When we have 62 days to act on the application and to approve or disapprove unless we get an agreement to extend that out.
Yeah.
I think your point then is that by holding it open, that then creates a conflict with the 62-day time limit. I wish our attorney was here so she could speak to this more robustly than I can. I think with all that we have going on and with the great interest that our community has in both the positive and potentially negative aspects of the application, that we may not have heard completely from everyone who wants to voice their concern. And this public hearing is the only forum for them to discuss that because they're not really party to the application review.
To have that opportunity to speak. We definitely listed in our incorporating all your comments, and we're trying to provide a great product for the town. So we don't think there's any additional comments being made that haven't already been closed.
The quality of the comments may not be as much an issue as the quantity of the comments. And I think that for a community that it's important that as many people as possible get to voice those, even if they are in repetition. It's my personal belief, and the members of the board may disagree with me. So I think that by listening to more of the community that it's helpful. Yes, at some point we need to say we're done.
It's something that's desirable, and listen to all your concerns and maybe concerns that you're definitely going to be incorporated into our plan.
Thoughts?
I'm sorry to ask, but I'm still not clear on how this affects our 62-day period for decision, what you mentioned about that.
There's a certain by the planning board.
Right.
What's the default decision?
And so if you carry that on, then there's more time for comments, then the 62 days will be up. So we would have to provide an extension, but providing them extension, we're requesting that you close the public hearing.
So you're asking that in exchange for us agreeing to close the public hearing, you would provide the extension. But isn't the reason you want us to close the public hearings to try to accelerate the continuation of the conversation?
We're not trying to accelerate anything. We've definitely taken all the comments that have been put at issue into our plan. And although there is like some repetition and all your comments are very important to us, we want to move this forward, but also there are restraints on the amount of time that a planning board needs to make a decision, and that's just across New York State. It's not specific to New Paltz. So it's also, we have to work with the applicant and also New York State.
How far into that?
Can I ask, what's our deadline?
Yeah.
Yeah, what is our deadline on this?
What's our deadline?
Again, if we had our attorney here, we'd be able to opt that right out.
See, I see the issues as independent.
I do
We
too.
could leave the public comment,
I think it's
excuse me, the public
essential.
hearing open for the reasons that John mentioned and still have the goal to move the application along on the same timeline. I don't see the opportunity to leave the public hearing open, for example, and this is just my opinion, for one more meeting as extending our timeline on the decision for the application. So from my perspective, based on the amount of interest in the application and the willingness to make comments, I think I think I'm comfortable recommending that we leave it open, but I'm also very aware of what you're sharing, which is that we need to move the process forward and we need to meet the deadline that's out there. While I have the floor, I also just want to mention from a planning board functioning perspective, it's very unusual for us to engage in a dialogue with the audience and with either members of public comment and public hearing. So, and that also tends to delay our ability to get to applications and move the work forward. So I also would say that maybe we just also need to be reminded as a board, and we can remind our neighbors that making a comment is something we're inviting, but asking questions about applications that have publicly available information and also asking us to engage in a conversation about each application with the public makes this process a lot more difficult to move forward.
Sorry, but since we don't have an attorney here, I just did a piece of research trying to find a succinct reading of the 62 days for the board. And the Department of State website says simply taking actions on applications. Planning boards must act within 62 days after the close of the public hearing. A resolution for any action by a planning board can only pass if it is approved by the majority of the entire board. But so just to reiterate what she was saying, the clock ticks once the public hearing is closed.
Right. So if we hold it open, then it really doesn't
Basically,
affect the 62-day. It affects it once we close. Okay, so then it wouldn't matter if we kept public hearing open because it would not interfere with the 62-day time period.
No, I understood that it begins when it closes.
Right.
Which is what you're encouraging.
I think that what she was trying to say is.
Well, excuse me,
We're
wait.
offering extension, waiving that right. I think that's what she was saying.
So, that's what I'm trying to get a clear answer about. So the 62 days begins when the public hearing is closed. And so your motivation to close the public hearing is because you want the 62-day clock to begin ticking. But I thought I heard you mention that you were willing to extend or waive the 62-day period. So that's why I don't understand why you'd be motivated to ask to close the public hearing if you're willing to extend the 62-day period anyway. Because I think leaving the public hearing open has the benefit of community buy-in and voice and isn't going to affect your application timeline, because I believe I heard you offer to extend the 62 days.
Rich, I'll address that if you don't mind. The reason we're asking to close the public hearing is because the comments are important. However, they are repetitive and we are addressing them, and we continue to address the same comments over and over again. We're willing to waive the 62-day period so that way you can continue your review, but not need to continue to have public hearings to do it. Your board is a very public and open board. You have public comment at every planning board meeting. the public can come and voice their opinion about our project or any other project at the beginning of every meeting. That comment can be taken under consideration by this board, just like any email correspondence can be taken under consideration by this board. So what we're saying is, we'd like for the public hearing to stop, but we will waive our 62 days and the review can continue as long as it takes. We'd just like to move on from the public hearing process. That's it. That's all we're asking. That's what we're putting in front of the board.
I think it's a valid comment that we've had even tonight, public comment, not within a context of a public hearing about all kinds of applicants. So thanks for mentioning that. Sorry, I'm hogging.
No, please go right ahead.
Trying to help us move this. Is there anything we need in place in order to accept their offer to extend the 62 days? Because that's a pretty valuable offer.
Mr. Arnold and Mr. Bo stayed on the record that they're prepared to do so.
Yes, we're prepared to waive the 60-day timeframe.
I guess my question then, again, having a attorney advisor, what we as a board would need to do in order to,
Make it efficient.
make it official.
Accept that extension.
I think the best we can do is just accept it on the record. We have their, their word. And I think it makes sense.
And they're almost independent issues now that we understand what's being offered.
Yeah.
You have another comment?
Mr. Chairman, we can provide a letter tomorrow from our attorney stating so to the village attorney that we formally waive the 62 days if the board doesn't in fact close the hearing tonight. And I'm sure that would suffice. That has sufficed in other towns in similar circumstances.
Okay.
It doesn't, because in every agenda, we have public comment, which can be made about any application or any issue. And we have public hearings that are specific to projects. It does, the difference is only that the public advertisement of the hearing refers to the dates that it existed in. But, I'd like to hear from everyone else. I've certainly spoken enough, but I'm just trying to clarify what we're trying to decide.
And we appreciate that. And you made a comment.
I guess after understanding the issue a little more, I do think that we should take up the offer, close the official hearing, and continue to invite public comments from the community. I think actually more people will hear about it from their neighbors and Facebook and, the village website than these official postings. So, yeah, I'm in favor of doing this.
It's obvious that the village takes the process of public hearings very, very seriously. I'm sure we spend a lot of money doing public announcements of when the hearings are, where they are, encourage people to come, encourage people to come to us by Zoom. And I think the last few meetings where this application has been here, it's obvious to me that system works, and it works very well. It worked very well tonight. We had a lot of great input from people who are here in a very serious fashion. That said, I think it is time now to close that part of the public hearing. Let's now put the onus on us to move this project along. Let people come anytime they want and talk about it. But I think we need to move this project along.
Okay, all right. Anyone else?
I don't have any strong feelings about it one way or the other.
Okay, all right. So then, I guess the motion that I would like to get is to close the public hearing.
So move.
Second,
All
in favor?
Aye.
So the public hearing for PB 2211, 137 North Chestnut Street is now closed. So we are now going to be moving on to the application reviews. And with the application review, the first application review that we have is PB 2310, 23 Mill Rock Road, Brian Orbach. Come on up. Do you have anything else that you want to add to this? Anything that needs to be said or done from your standpoint? Okay. So again, this is a summary for an application for site plan review to construct a 15 by 20 foot screened in porch. Applicant obtained site plan approval in 2021. It expired and he's reapplied for approval of the same application. So with that in mind, then I would like to look at the draft resolution that has been crafted, and at the end of this, we will determine if indeed you all approve of this. So this says, whereas on or about August 17, 2021, Mr. Lee Frizzell received site plan approval on behalf of Mr. Brian Oback, property owner, from the application PB 2106 for 23 Mill Rock Road to attach a 15 by 20 foot screened in porch on the back of the residence. And whereas the site plan approval granted in 2021 has expired and Mr. Oback has reapplied for site plan approval of the same application, and whereas the following are significant plans or other submittals that form part of the basis of the planning board's action. The village site plan application dated April 3rd, 2023, site plan with elevations dated July 9th, 2021. Whereas the proposed project is located in R2 district, application submitted a short EAF. It was determined that a referral to Ulster County Planning Board was not required. And then the planning board classified the action as a type 2 action under the seeker. Duly noticed public hearing on the application was held April 18, 2023, which all those wishing to be heard were given the opportunity to speak and closed on that same date. Therefore, it is hereby resolved by the Village of New Paltz Planning Board that the proposed site plan approval for 23 Mill Rock Road to attach a 15 by 20 foot screened in porch on the back of the residence as shown on the site plan with elevations dated July 9, 2021 is hereby approved and subject to the following conditions. Village right to enter upon the property for purposes of inspecting and payment of all fees and final site plan as payment of all fees and final site plan is submitted. So I'd like to get a motion to approve the resolution of the site plan approval for 23 Mill Rock Road.
Am I voting? Just a question.
1, 2, 3, 4, yes.
Oh, okay. Oh, Ellen doesn't. Okay.
Right. So the site plan. Second, okay, and so what we're going to do then is take a voice vote of approval. So I'll let you go right ahead.
Zach Bilecki,
Aye.
Rachel Legatka. Aye. Rich Soto,
Aye.
Terry Dolan.
Aye.
Chair John Lind.
Aye.
Thank you.
So this has approved.
Fabulous. Thank you so much.
There we are.
Moving it through.
You're all invited to my porch.
It's a conflict.
Okay, so head over to Autumn. So that one's done. So the next application review is PB 2306 Church Street, Jessica Cruz. Hi there, come on up. So this is an application for a special use permit to establish a 1,100 square foot retail business or service not otherwise mentioned, a cat cafe in the existing building, mixed use building, and 800 square foot, So essentially, one part is going to be the cat cafe, one part is going to be cats.
Yep, so we refer to it as like the cafe and then the cat lounge. So on one side, we're gonna have the adoptable shelter cats that people can hang out with, and on the other side, we're gonna have the cafe and some seating as well.
So you did, one of the outstanding pieces that we needed was a special use permit narrative. You have provided that. So the narrative, I think everyone has a copy of that in their email, so no need to read that. The SUP narrative should be updated to address As previously noted, site plan indicates there are certain pre-existing non-conforming conditions, including parking and the rear yard setback. We're going to ask Corey to do a zoning code review and confirm any non-conformities or legal pre-existing non-conformities. So that's going to require him to do that, indicate whether the landscaping or other new B2 requirements are triggered since no exterior changes or construction are proposed. So we're going to ask Corey to do that review. Okay, so if he's already done that, then that's great. So the next thing that we really need to do is we need to set a public hearing. So when is the next available public hearing?
We try to jam it in on May 2nd, or we can go to May 16th. That's up to you.
Could you get everything in by May 2nd?
You would have to you'd have to accomplish the mailing and the signage posting by this weekend in order to do that.
Okay, I think we could do that.
Okay, so you're gonna need to reach out to her tomorrow and she will guide you through the process. But if you can't get it done by this weekend, then it's gonna default to the 16th.
Oh, so I'll make sure to get it done by this weekend.
Okay. So I'd like to get a motion to schedule the public hearing for May 3rd.
So move.
Second, rather.
Second.
So moved. Okay, second.
Seconded.
All in favor? Aye. So we have that set and we've got Corey doing his part. We've got the special use narrative in there. So next will be the public hearing, and then after that, it should be pretty smooth sailing for you.
Sounds great.
Okay?
Yeah, appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you.
So the next one that we are going to be looking at is PB 2218 6810 Cooper Street. David Shepler is the applicant. Everyone knows the summary of this. So what we're going to do is we're going to review the revised plans. And I believe there was a modification that you wanted to discuss, or from the email, or is that active, not active?
You mean the merging lots?
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
I mean, I don't know if there's any site. I mean, my question was whether it's even a planning board issue or not. Really, it's about tax parcels and the way you manage the properties and so forth. So, but the Corey didn't weigh in at all, or the attorney?
You've got the email there. On the desk there.
Okay, thank you. So,
Basically, the
this doesn't really. Just quickly here.
All right, second question. This is the section of code that he was referring to here.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you. All right, so this is from Corey. Says for reference, maximum number of principal buildings per lot for residential dwellings are to be constructed. No more than one principal building shall be permitted on a single lot, except in accordance with a subsection that he mentions. Exceptions to maximum number of principal buildings per lot, single family or two family dwellings. There shall be no exceptions to this provision of subsection C. Above for the construction of single family or two family dwellings. Second one is residential dwellings other than single family or two family dwellings where construction of residential dwellings permitted and defined by this chapter other than single family or two family dwellings is proposed. As many as 3 detached principal buildings may be permitted on a single lot, provided that no such attached building shall be closer to any other principal building than the distance equal to the average of the heights of said building. Each building shall comply with all front and rear yard setbacks and all bulk and area requirements for a building lot in that zoning district. And the area of the lot shall be at least equal to the minimum lot area required for a single building or dwelling unit in that particular zoning district, multiplied by the total number of buildings or dwelling units which will occupy the lot, whichever requires the greatest lot area.
Is it? That's a lot of words.
I know.
Is it, I heard up to 3 buildings on a single lot if they are duplexes,
Here's,
right? So is there a net conclusion that anyone?
I tried to follow that. I think we should get Corey to give us the opinion as opposed to just the language. But
Yeah.
what I understood that to say is that you essentially you could have up to 3 buildings in a lot of this sort of
Yeah.
2-family
Yeah.
on a lot,
Right.
so long as it complies with all of the bulk restrictions and setbacks and stuff,
Mhm.
as it would have had to apply if it were 3 separate lots.
right.
Right.
So that you can't take one lot that would have counted
Right,
for 1
right.
and put 3 on it, but you can, if it's the
Right.
equivalent of it,
Right.
you can.
It would be pretty
you can blend
shocking.
The lines is what I got from that.
It would be pretty shocking if these 3 buildings that comply on their individual lots somehow didn't comply when combined, right?
Which I think is why the code's
Right.
written that way.
That's
It's
right.
supposed to
Yeah.
make sure that's the case.
So, yeah, it's just like Village Arms, right? Our good neighbors to the west here, they're in a condo complex, right? Where there are a lot of buildings on a single lot. And the whole point of this is to enable us to more easily create a condo association to manage the individual units because the lots can't be subdivided. So that they could be individual properties. That's not possible, unfortunately. So the better way to do it is to merge the lots to create a single condo association. Otherwise, according to the land use attorneys that I've been consulting, it gets difficult because then you have to create a condo association that encumbers multiple parcels and it just gets more tedious with the Attorney General's office and all the legal comings and goings. So I'm trying to simplify things by creating a single lot. Just like every other multi-family dwelling in Newports that are owned or treated as condos, right? Yeah, that's the intention here.
Okay,
So, I mean, we can look, if someone can send me that language, we can create try to interpret that and create a map like we did does Ashley did we no longer have a planning board attorney? Or what's happened? I haven't seen it. What's that?
she has a separate meeting that she is attending.
Oh, okay, but you still have it. Okay. Just like we put the bulk requirements table on the site plan for the 3 individual parcels, we could do the same by applying. Unfortunately, my architect has fallen ill for last month, doing some things, but we could do the analysis to show how we would comply with that language that Corey provided if the lots were combined. But I don't honestly know, I mean, the main thing I need to understand, is this even a planning board issue? Or is this something I just work directly with Corey on? Right?
Sounds like it's a planning board issue in as much as the newly designed plan and application of the same development on one single lot then has to meet the code for those 3 buildings to be on a single lot with regard to the bulk table and setbacks and all that. So it may not be a planning board issue the way you set up a condo association or the way the tax rolls read the plan, the properties ultimately, but it is a planning board issue and that we have to approve a plan and now it's a different plan.
Right. So the implications on the site plan, right, for setbacks and bulk requirements.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Now that we understand the intent, I think we don't have to be the interpreters of
Right.
that code. We try our best. We can get a final determination from Corey and
Yes.
Ashley. And it sounded like it's gonna work, but
It does,
Yeah.
but that's something that we're gonna need to get
Right.
Corey to weigh in on.
Right. Yeah, and that's what I'm looking for, because if I want to invest the effort to articulate that on the site plan, like by listing the bulk cars, I just want to get a signal that there's not an automatic showstopper or that I'm not aware of, okay?
I think you could wait for a perspective before you do the.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think you do that.
Yeah, before you get too far into it, I think
Okay.
that we need to get that final word from Corey.
Yeah.
So,
Everybody.
This is available online. You want to talk about the drainage issue?
yeah, that's the thing we're gonna get involved in that.
I'm viewing this place, you're gonna be a condo.
Yeah.
And we can drain more easily. Drain together.
We'll all drain together. Yes. So,
Okay, so let's do this now, that we have gone over, part of this. Is we're gonna have Corey give us, we're gonna have Corey give us more information on this before we can really do much of anything else on that aspect of it. But I would like to, look at the comments that were made earlier tonight on some of the drainage issues.
Yeah.
And if you could address those, generally speaking, it was concern about drainage, elevation, grade slope, making drainage towards other folks' homes, requesting engineering study on drainage. Solution was suggested.
I'm gonna invite, they're part of my party here.
Okay, so if we can get some information on that.
Yeah. Yeah, I might as well address to all of you guys at the same time. So the great news for you is that this has been designed from day one with the intention of bringing as much water into the existing catch basins and stormwater system that you noted is on Cooper Street. So you talked about the design of the homes and you mentioned the lower floor and the upper floor. It turns out we intentionally sloped the roofs of all three multifamily units. We intentionally sloped them to the west, the east, sorry, from the west to the east. Yeah, with two intentions in mind. One was to lower the profile, as you mentioned, to the uphill neighbors so that they have a sense that there's less mass facing them on Cooper Street. But the other critical reason was because we needed to bring that water forward and away from you. So there's no doubt that the drainage circumstances of these lots are going to improve relative to Village Arms. And we can show you that this grading and utility plan was designed very intentionally for that. So in addition to the sloping the roofs, which you can see is a fairly significant portion of the horizontal mass of these three lots. And in addition, we are raising the grading of the whole front half of the lots, the east facing side of the lots, bring the water to the front. So in addition to the water we're capturing off the roofs and piping them into the catchwater basins, we are also increasing. Right now, the grade pushes all the water towards Village Arms and along the swale on the back that was designed
Right now, the way it is
25 years
now,
ago.
right.
Yeah, now we're raising the elevation of, the grade down the center to bring the front yard water forward and all the water from the roofs forward and into the catch basins and stormwater system. So that will significantly improve the amount of water that flows to the west.
Is there a moment for conversation or question?
Yeah, I got questions too.
Well,
So I'll point out, first of all, that this is not the middle of the lot. That's about 1/3.
Right.
And it's 2/3 sloping toward us. And these contour lines currently, of course, it's very lumpy, but it's more or less higher than the grade, which at least the renderings the renderings show you flat to the grade.
you're not reading this correctly, though. The red lines are the existing grade. The black lines are the new grade that we're creating. But yeah.
Here's what I'm gonna suggest,
Sorry.
because we don't wanna take up a great deal of time on specific engineering techniques and grade slopes, is that I would like to suggest that perhaps if you can jointly schedule a time when you can look at this in more detail. Not that we don't think that this is important at the meeting, it's just that we do have quite a bit of information still that we need to get through in some other, related to some other issues. So if you could schedule that time, I think that would be great. And that you can take that as time away from the board itself. So
Sure.
if you would do that.
But I got a question. for you.
Okay, well, yeah, we need to get this kind of offline from the meeting so that we can address some of the other applications that are occurring here that need to be attended to. He's not avoiding it, and I feel. Wait.
No, we'll sit down together. I just wanted you guys to be aware.
Thank you.
Okay, so you're going to schedule a time then with them to go over this in much more detail, and thank you for addressing it as you have.
Can you just remind me? Our engineer already looked at this plan and didn't see any issues with the drainage plan, right?
Correct.
So he has reviewed this.
He has.
The current.
And his view coincides with what David was just explaining.
Right. That's what I remember. Too.
Yeah. So the issue is in part a communication.
Yeah.
Of those engineering facts to the parties that are concerned.
Yep.
So thank you for that.
Can I just ask one question?
Yes,
I
please.
guess what, in terms of our engineers review, I'm assuming that the engineers review the like threshold of their review is that it won't have an adverse impact on the neighboring property. In other words, it's not, the development would not make the drainage concerns of the neighboring property any worse. I would
That is-
assume that's their threshold.
Yeah. What we asked for him to do was to comment on the effect of the drainage issues, and that his comment was he did not see any negative effect on the surrounding houses and community.
Right, but that's part of why I'm asking that, because it's not going to, there's not going to be our engineer's not going to place a burden on the developer to improve the existing
No.
circumstance, but not to have any other additional adverse effect.
Correct. They pretty much
That's
do what you
something
asked.
Everybody should be clear now too.
And we just asked him to review the plans in light of the drainage and how, what its effect would be.
And process question,
Well, no.
process question.
So, I'm sorry. So that's how that went. So if you will please get with them, and then we're gonna get,
Clarity on the
yeah,
merging.
yeah, and we've got to look back with Dennis, and there are a couple of issues that are outstanding still with Dennis. Village engineer should review the revised plans, which I think that's what he did. Grading utility plans added note requested by Dennis Larios. Note states that it is by the town engineer, so we just need to correct that so that it no longer says town engineer, it says village engineer. Although our attorney says there's no need to indicate on the plan that it was by the village engineer. And then the drainage easement on 10 Cooper should be provided.
Sorry, is that a new?
Yeah,
a new request?
previously noted the drainage easement on 10 Cooper should be provided.
This is a This is coming from whom? I'm sorry.
It's coming from Ashley, from our attorney.
That it should be a drainage easement where? What am I,
Well, we're gonna have to ask her then.
that's the only request? Is
Well, it says the
drainage?
village engineer, so the remaining issues are the village engineer should review the revised grading and utility plan and soil erosion and sediment control details,
But they
which he
already,
did.
they already did that.
And then the grading utility plan has added the note requested by Dennis Larios. However, the note states it's by the town engineer. We just need to take town off of there, town engineer off of there. She says there's no need to indicate on the plan that it was by the village engineer. And lastly, that says, as previously noted, the drainage easement on 10 Cooper should be provided.
Yeah, I just need detail on what that entails, where it's missing and what is required there. Happy to put it on. I just don't know what that means. A drain, does it,
Right there.
Yeah.
That's right here.
If it needs.
There's a 10 foot on each side of the property.
oh, that affects you guys as well?
Yeah, because it goes this way and then.
And they just want it noted?
Oh.
Yeah. Okay. There may be multiple.
Yeah,
I just
Terry.
need clarity on what it is.
No, I think, Dave, what they're showing is. I think you have to show that obviously you're using that easement right there, right? Where we're here, right? That easement goes through your property right there. See my finger?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you have to have a document that shows that you have an easement to you that goes across your property. They're looking for a legal document, a legal easement document that addresses that
I
issue.
thought it said something about mark an easement, or is it mark the document you're referring to on the plan? Anyway, maybe,
No, the issue on the plan was that it says you have a note by the town engineer and it just needs to be changed to the
Well,
village.
no, they're talking about the easement now.
Should be provided. The drainage easement should be provided. The easement is the
The document.
document easement for that.
okay, I'll ask, you guys are gonna email me this, right? I can ask my engineer what he thinks that's.
Yeah, we should have got an easement for that,
Okay,
that drainage.
okay,
You couldn't get clear title of the land without it. Somewhere that easement exists.
yeah, okay, happy to provide with that.
So those are the three remaining issues. And once we get that and we get the review back from Corey,
Yeah.
then we should be able to move
Okay.
forward on it.
All right. And we provided, the other details, we provided the retaining wall and fencing along the southern border with we chatted with our neighbor here about a solution for providing a visual break and, something that,
Okay.
and that's also marked on here.
So I know, Ms. Ward, that you have a question here. What I would like for you to do, if you could address that with David
Yep.
regarding setbacks, and if you can just take care of that and decide. Well, okay, and but again, this is something that if you can reach out to him, and he seems to be very willing to take the time to show you and to explain what's going on. And then at the next meeting, then if that doesn't happen, please come back and we'll hold the feet to the fire to get it done. Yep.
Okay, and then, so that's it, or what?
That's it for right now. Until we get that information back, we can't really.
So the
Yeah, we're kind of
drainage easement.
Mhm.
Sorry, just remind me again, so I don't.
So,
I'll meet with all the folks. and
yeah, we need the drainage easement
Uh-huh.
and, then the town engineer needs to be taken off. It says you don't have to put on the village engineer, but that should. And then we're gonna get Corey to, weigh in on,
The merging the lots.
on the merging the lots.
Yeah. Oh, right here, note by town engineer, in the event these lots
Yeah.
are further subdivided.
And it doesn't have
Oh,
to
we're
have the
not
word
sub-
town engineer. The word is town engineer is the
Yeah, I
issue.
mean, that may no longer be
It's-
relevant.
Yeah,
at
I
all.
don't even, we're not subdividing, so maybe just strike the whole
Yeah,
thing. Okay. Yeah. All right. Okay.
All right,
You want an extra one of these for the neighbors?
Sure. Thank you.
you can have a second one as well.
Okay.
Okay, well, thank you.
Yep.
So next, we are going to be working on PB 2302 145 North Chestnut. KES Properties.
Yeah, both of them. Yeah.
Okay, we all know what the application is about. So, let's start with. Work our way through here. So we classified it as seeker. We sent it off to, we want to declare lead agency status. We need to wait 30 days unless we've received consents from all of the involved agencies where there. Who else are we, who else?
Yeah, sorry. They all.
So no one else, no one's outstanding on it. Okay, so then, so we do have a referral that we need to make to the Ulster County Planning Board. So because we've received all this, we then are going to be assuming lead agency status. So the next thing we want to do is we want to make referral to the Ulster County Planning Board. What's the next time the Ulster County Planning Board meets? It'll be their May meeting, is that correct? That meeting is May what? Okay, so I'd like to get a motion to refer this application to the Ulster County Planning Board for the May 3rd meeting.
So move.
Second,
Seconded.
all in favor?
Aye.
We've done that. So now we get to talk about some different aspects here. Discuss whether a bicycle lane is needed. Ask the applicant to note where it is to be on the plans. Village code, streetscape standards, alignment with community complete streets policy, site plans should include broad sidewalk, street, trees, and a bicycle lane. So on your plans, where would that bicycle lane be?
Referring to a bicycle lane
On
off
30.
the site or on the site? That's,
I am assuming if it's a bicycle lane, that it's on the street, it would be on 32.
So,
Would you? I mean,
yeah, I think that's what the code.
yeah, it is, yeah.
I'll just introduce myself.
Sure.
Good evening, everyone. Frank Filachotto with Creighton Manning,
Mhm.
traffic engineer for the project. I think if the code is requiring it to be on the road, it is a state road, as we've all been talking about this evening. And the state would need to approve a bicycle lane because it's challenging to do bicycle lanes in pieces because you don't want a cyclist to go from
Right.
an area where there's 100 feet of bicycle lane and then for a half mile there isn't anyone. It's usually done as a cohesive thing. So we have submitted to DOT. I heard before that you circulated for secret, so that process is moving forward. We haven't gotten any formal feedback from them. We hope to have feedback by the next meeting. But that process would likely shake out the idea of a bike lane on this particular roadway.
Okay.
And really, we're at the mercy of DOT's input on that. We can't just propose it on the plan because it's their road.
Yeah. Let me take care of it. Yeah. I'm sorry, I apologize here. I don't know what's wrong.
Hi, folks. It's interesting, we can continue briefly the bike lane question.
Sure.
So there's also multiple ways to add the bike lane with the curb and the interior versus the curb on the side. And since there's no parking proposed in this one, unlike Zero Place where there was parking and a bike lane. So you're saying you're wondering whether they would approve it, but is there a concept that they'd be considering to approve? Or would that require some iterations? In other words, are they going to say, yeah, we're open to a bike lane, draw us one that you want to have happen? And if they do that, I'd be curious at least to know, like, what were you thinking? Because we're talking about 145.
Right.
We're not yet talking about 137 with
Which is
regard
also-
to the
which would
bike
be-
lane, which I don't recall whether it's on there.
Right, and you have areas in between
Yeah.
all the way down that
Yeah.
again, even with the two properties would still be a kind of a spot
Understood.
on
Yeah.
it, not necessarily an entire.
Yeah.
What they would probably like us to do, if, based on my experience, is design for its eventual installation. So making sure the design that is ultimately approved and built, if the board were to look favorably on the application, is allowing a design that bike lane would then be able to go in once it can go in along the whole corridor. That's the way I would envision it, based on experience with DOT. They don't like to do spot treatments because it could be confusing to both motorists and the bicycles.
So may I ask, does that mean that there would be a time frame that it would have to work out that it could be done within a year or within 3 years, or it just would be wide open for when all of a sudden there was the option of flat land, not flat land, but land, a place that you could put a bike. So it could never happen. I mean, it's possible it would never happen. That didn't.
It would be up to them, yeah. Yep.
I think that goes similar to even like the parking that is out along 32. That was early discussions with the village to do that, right? Because that's a desire to have that. But again, we're at the mercy of DOT, whether or not they'll say yes or.
And part of the whole, Ken Casamento from LRC, part of the whole concept of also doing that is one of the things on this road is, it is the wider the road is and the lower the speed limit is, the faster people still feel because it feels wide open. So the more you can restrict the road in and bring it down to feel tighter, it naturally slows the vehicles down.
Well, you can do that with curbing with an internal bike lane.
Well, part of also bringing the parking on the street would make that feel like all of a sudden it doesn't have a 12-foot shoulder. It has a much narrower shoulder and all that.
Right.
I believe, and I think that's cited by the attorney, that that there are guidelines for including this in the site plan as per the streetscapes amendment. It's not, it's the NBR, it's an amendment to the NBR, I believe. And so I think it's appropriate for us to ask for a design of that. And then we'll also get feedback from DOT, and maybe we'll have to iterate in that way. But leaving it blank, I don't think they're going to come back and say, yes, do it and do it this way. I think we're going to need to have
Provide
something.
them with the idea.
And we'd like to know what your perspective is, and I guess it would have to do your best, just like, the other development, Zero Place, I don't remember their address. They're also in that situation where it's a segment, which has that unique curb and parking and bike lane, and on either side it doesn't. So I think I would say that we could ask for a drawing of what it might look like.
And we understand that that's a segment, and we also understand that the bridge is going to be an impediment to having that go all the way through.
Yeah.
But if you can start with us and getting that.
Yeah, we can't exclude it from the site plan if it's a requirement of it.
We could look at how to incorporate it in one way, whether it's like a land bank thing type, like we said, like it's designed for it. May not be implemented today if the DOT doesn't allow it until it's there, but it's still built into the design so that it could be implemented if opportunity.
Okay.
I'd like to also know from Ashley or Corey if that is a hard requirement or if it's one of the things that's kind of like
more planning board has some flexibility on deciding whether that's has to
There's
be
always
there.
great debate about should and shall. And the
Yeah,
wording here is should include. Well,
right. Yes.
is
Yeah.
that a shall or is that should? And I don't know. If we had an attorney, we could ask.
Just to input, Dominic Albano, Whitman, Montana, representing Baxter. I'm sorry, KES Chestnut Properties. Generally, planning boards have the option to waive requirements if the sites aren't like applicable to the said requirements, like there might be other sites in this general district that this would be better fit. But we could provide these designs if necessary, but that's just a general rule that
Okay.
planning boards have that.
So, yeah, if you'll just get us the concept.
Sure.
And we'll go over the should, shall, and we'll get an opinion on that. So the next one is, we need to clarify how the refuse container operations should be handled and how they intend to comply with the village code, which requires that refuse containers be easy to access by haulers, but enclosed and located so that they are concealed from view.
So I think you're reading from the comments that she had provided previously. So just one note, we are going to be providing a formal written response to all of those. We're planning on doing that by the 24th, so that we can make the 16th meeting deadline. We just didn't have enough time to respond to everything.
Okay.
But we can answer those because we've been.
Let's go.
All right. So actually, there is no refuse outside. It's all inside. That's the
Okay.
point of what we designed. So we have garbage chutes that go from the third floor, second down to the first. All garbage is contained within a compactor inside in the building. And then when the truck backs up to that location, they go in, they roll those containers out, empty it, put them back in.
Perfect. Ask the applicant to clarify the type of apartments and clearly identify that on the plan as any units on the first floor that is not accessible requires a special use permit.
They are all accessible.
While we're on the subject, I was interested in Terry's perspective on affordable units and exactly what the calculation is and whether, Terry could opine on the need and whether the applicant has had any consideration of potentially exceeding the minimum requirement for affordable units for a development like this.
Yeah, my name is Terry Goen. I'm also the chairman of the Village Affordable Housing Board. I can't stress enough the need for affordable housing in the village. As much as can possibly be produced, we can use. There's no question about it. You probably know better than I. I know it's 10% of the units. Have you proposed affordable units?
I don't believe there's been anything at the very first meeting. I think the ownership was here and they said they would, of course.
They're going to comply with you.
Comply with it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I don't think anything beyond that.
Okay, well, I think the number of units in this building is
68.
68. So
7
it'll be
units.
7 units.
Yep.
They would have to be distributed throughout the bedroom sizes.
Yep.
They would have to be distributed throughout the building. And as fast as you can build them, we can fill them.
Everywhere.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
Yep.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I have spoken to people about this. The way the village ordinance is written currently, most of the people who apply for affordable housing in the village have annual incomes far below that of the maximum rents allowed by the ordinance. And I'm just saying that's the way it is. So if you propose the maximum rents, it's going to take us a while to find people to fill those units.
What is that, how much money would the monthly rent be? You don't have any estimation, and what is the maximum rent?
Well, it depends on family size. I don't want to
It's roughly for a family of one. I believe it's a little over $1,000. For a family of two, it could be in the $1,200 to $1,300 range per month. Those are the maximum rents. But many, many people that we see have incomes that they would be paying 60%, 70% of their monthly income for rent. It's not a law, I understand that, but it certainly has been historical in this country for many years, for almost 30 years now, 40 years now, that the Department of Housing and Urban Development many, many years ago established a kind of a guideline that said people in America should not spend more than 30% of their income on housing that includes either a mortgage, taxes, insurance, or rent, condo fees, whatever. That 30% is not etched in law. I understand that. But it seems to me that a standard that has been set over decades, I think we should try and hit it. I think we should try and be there. The Affordable Housing Board is going to be meeting in early May. We are looking at the ordinance. We hope to make some recommendations to the village board to kind of make the ordinance perhaps a little more responsive to you as developers and also more responsive to people who come to us for help. But that's down the road a little bit. And I understand you guys have a project to build and that's fine. You know, we don't want to change the rules in the middle of your game. It's not fair and we wouldn't do it. But I'm just telling you that the maximum rents allowed by the ordinance is very, very hard for us to find people and families that can pay that kind of rent and not just really burden the families. I should get off my soapbox. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Okay. So at least you heard it from the
Absolutely.
appropriate source.
One nice thing about this project is we have a nice mix of units. So that
Yes, you do.
does help.
Yep, absolutely.
So the next item is demonstrate compliance with Village Code 21213 by delineating the 30-foot buffer to the center line of the stream on the plans.
So there's one small section in this corner that we didn't meet that. So in the plans that you were getting, we're just shifting. There's just some interior playing with landscaping shift it to make it fit so that we will have that in compliance at the next.
Does that reduce the parking?
Nope, keeps it the same.
Show you.
How does it adjust the parking?
So see that little sliver of parking? That's where we're not compliant.
That's it. So we're removing some of the grass lawn in here. This landscaping
Just
still
gotta,
stays
like,
there. Shift it up 1.5 or 2 this way, basically.
Okay.
And we actually did talk about just today, the potential for readjusting and getting one more space in a different location, but be able to create a better continuity for what is now this spine to the walkway, so that it can go across and connect to the rail trail.
Okay.
Through there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just would be a good design practice to add in. Yep.
Yeah.
And by doing the shift, it does allow us to play with the grading a little bit better in here to create a shelf so that we can create some lower tiered, some landscaping interior pods into here to further connect the treescape to the rail trail outside on the back.
Some of that, just so you're aware, was discussed when Ken and I went to the HBC meeting and went through that with them, because you guys referred us last time to HBC, which was a great meeting. Almost no comments, so it's great.
Okay. Clarify the Walk-Hill Valley Rail Trail connection, and we're going to request that you complete part 5 of the application specific to this area, as the connection requires a special use permit under the village code.
So for that specifically, when we're looking at the application online, I believe that was related to subdivisions. Could you just direct me towards which part of the application? It said 5, but on the application online, it was related only to subdivisions.
That's a very good point, and I don't really know.
Because we're gonna respond to everything.
Right.
Like we said, in letter form, so you have all the answers provided to you to make this.
So your comment is this, question is this refer to subdivisions?
Yeah,
There is no subdivision.
yeah. So I know you're probably directing it to sort towards something else on the application. I just want to know, I don't believe it's part 5.
It's the special use area. Part 5 is the special use area, not the subdivision.
Not the subdivision? Okay, one of the application that we submitted, I believe it's like subdivision. So is there like a list of the format for in the code for this?
Yeah, I'll get changed.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So we need to discuss with you whether there's going to be an easement recorded for the shared driveway on the south side of the property with the neighboring property to limit development and preserve the shared entrance, and if not, what's the future of that entrance?
So this entrance here
Mhm.
currently has no formal agreement between the two landowners.
Right.
There's no easement there, there's nothing there. So the applicant has been talking with the landowner here to formalize the entrance and create an easement across it so that it would preserve it for both applicants going forward, so that it becomes a shared entrance rather than, either one of them saying, no, you can't have it, and closing a portion of it and forcing the other to find another entrance onto 32 to limit those access points.
And
Yes.
okay,
Correct.
that's what I was going to ask.
Yes, it is the car wash.
Yeah, that seems to be kind of a wide open.
It is,
Yeah,
it's amorphous parking lot, yeah.
Yeah.
It kind of comes right in and always has just kind of go wide out into Agway. And, for years, everyone would just drive straight across.
Yep.
So by doing, this will help bring that down
Okay,
and organize that entrance.
okay. Plan sheet that shows movement of the fire department's largest vehicles about the property, demonstrating all 4 sides of the building are accessible for rescue operations in the event of an emergency.
The
What's the
reason
width on that?
the reason for this is 26 feet for a fire apparatus lane,
Okay.
so that the truck can go through, and we have showed in the plans that there's a truck turn movement for the fire truck throughout.
Okay. Corey determined that the accessible parking spaces on the north side of the building next to the loading area do not contain an access aisle.
So as Jason pointed out, this is also our refuse when they pull
Right.
it out. So part of what Corey was saying is that the 8 foot and 5 foot, if the refuse is there, potentially a car couldn't park there. So we're just shifting around how this works in here for parking, playing with the interior layout to make that meet compliance so that there's no question that
And this is all going to be on the next iteration.
Yes, it is. Yep.
And you have an excess number of spots currently.
So,
How many excess?
yeah, so we're 112, I think, total.
Total, correct.
And so we're excess by 8
I believe it
spaces.
is.
And
which
we
of-
didn't request a waiver for reduction either.
So we are meeting the site with the parking on site. And
Okay.
essentially, this is the action on the DOT.
And then you require a variance from the maximum side yard setback 0 to 15 feet.
Just to speak to that, one of Failing had the same issue and and Nick Warner, one of the other consultants on the project, had spoken with Corey and how there's some confusion in the code. There are 2 sections in the code. One gives in section 213-13G6 says that in the NBR district, there is 0 to 15 feet maximum for the
Mhm.
setback on that side yard. But also in the attachment schedule B 212, it says for the NBR that the minimum on each side is 15 feet. So when there's situations of ambiguity in the code, your case law requires the like boards to rule in favor of the property owner when there's any sort of ambiguity. So for this project, because it says minimum width each side is 15 feet, we exceed the 15 feet minimum. I don't know what the intent of the 0 to 15 feet.
I don't either. That's
maximum.
interesting.
So I was asking before what does this mean?
So, no.
Part of the other component of that is just the fire code requirements to have a fire apparatus lane, which is 26 foot wide. It's physically impossible to meet all of the requirements there with the code, when the requirement to have a travel lane of 26 feet around the side of the building. You can't put the building within the travel lane. So.
Yeah, to that point, once you have a building that's 30 feet or greater, you have to have 2 access points. So that be remote access points. So to comply with the state fire code, basically this complies with the state fire code. It also complies with zoning as you read the one table. Now, the one other section of zoning contradicts that, but that's basically what.
So, I believe Corey was discussing this with one of the attorneys, either for your board or the village,
I think the
Bill
village
Frank,
attorney.
and also the mayor. So, but he said that he agreed with our analysis. We provided case law to support this statement. And we'll also be providing this in the comment letter we give to you.
Okay, thank you. We need to get with Corey on that and discuss it. All right. Next item, issues, and I think these are all issues that our attorney has provided to you before. Submitting an SUP narrative. EAF should be revised.
Yeah.
That was all done.
That was
Those
all those
comments
are-
were all.
Okay, so
And
we'll-
over to circulate.
all right, let me go through and just make sure that we can check them off here, and then you'll know what's left. EAF should be revised. You said that's done. The alterations reviewed by HPC. Zoning summary table should be updated to indicate the proposed height. It's 35 feet. Done.
This,
Okay. And we did have a review by the consultants.
It's one of the things, I just confirmed with you that on the old form,
Uh-huh.
in the part 5 that you had discussed before, mentioned subdivision, but it's actually the special use permit narrative, which we've already submitted. So just so you can include that in your notes.
Yeah,
That's why there was some confusion.
And we did receive a letter from your traffic or town and village engineer, Dennis Laris, who I spoke with yesterday on the phone. We've got his comments. We're working through those comments to have them in as part of the next submission. Part of that is still the sewer pump station that's up here that he's working on the report for. So we'll finalize that section, the sewer design, once we get some direction from him as to what the problem is. And we've met with him or talked to him about meeting with the other applicant that's going to be on after us, once he gets done, to talk through the best solution on how to make it all work together.
Okay.
Similarly, we have the letter from DTS Provident, your traffic consultant, dated, I think, March 15th.
Yes.
March 17th, sorry.
Something mid-March.
March 17th.
Okay.
So by April 24th, we're going to be submitting a package that addresses this letter. So we'll provide a response letter and then a revised traffic study that addresses the comments.
couple questions, John. The street parking, I believe in the other application, they have not contemplated street parking because of the challenges it provides to line of sight and during egress.
Sure.
And I'm wondering if you figured out a different way to address that, because I see that it's included.
So we did have the same comment come to us in front of the HPC about that, and we've actually, I'll let you speak to it.
Sure. Sure. So on-street parking, in the transportation traffic engineering realm is it's a little bit of a gray area, because a parked vehicle is not a permanent object. What we try to do with site distance is remove all permanent objects out of those sight lines. Like you would never want to put a building on a corner if you had a 50-mile-an-hour road, you wouldn't be able to see, right? Parked vehicles are not always there. Some are bigger, some are smaller. The guidance is a little bit more gray there. So what we try to do is design thoughtfully, understanding that there's a desire to put a little bit more of an urban context on this road. The curbside parking will create that friction and create that feel. But have it be mostly out of the sight line. And so what we were thinking about is that the first car and the last car are the two worst case scenarios. And what we're contemplating is removing those two so that really you have clear sight lines everywhere else.
Right.
The other thing, and we all do it as drivers, is the sight lines are measured from a point 14.5 feet back from the edge of the pavement, which is typically the fog line on a road like this, the white line. That's usually not where a driver ultimately makes the last decision to turn. They usually creep up a little bit, turn out. But if you were to creep out in a situation like this, you'd have a clear sight line. But we like to try to follow the guidance as best as possible. And in doing so, I think the first and the last vehicle could probably be removed. Ultimately, this is DOT's call anyway. You know, they need to approve the idea of street parking to begin with, but that's kind of our approach at this point.
Okay.
I think that even if DOT might say it's acceptable by the engineering guideline, I think experience tells us that it's actually, it can be pretty challenging. And if you can easily meet code and parking requirement by eliminating those two spots on either end, I think it would be I would make a strong recommendation for it. I'm pulling out of Mulberry as much the whole design that went into Zero Place, pulling out of Mulberry Street.
That's what we've heard.
With a van, like a delivery van or something, you don't see.
Yeah. Understood.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, moving right along, bedroom count appears incorrect.
That's all been addressed, yeah.
All been addressed, okay. Confirm total square footage of the building.
All
done. Zoning summary table indicates the side yard setback exceeds 15-foot maximum. We just discussed that. Parking summary table, 104 on-site spaces. Just gotta make sure.
Absolutely.
It's great to actually be able to check things off. Plan must be reviewed for compliance with the various NBR requirements of the village code. Okay. Requirement 10% of the residential units be affordable housing, that we just discussed. Parking summary table, including bicycle parking requirement.
That's been addressed.
Landscaping plan must be prepared by an RLA.
Yes.
Yep. Okay. All right. So that leads us to the items that we mentioned. Thank you for getting with her on the application. So yeah, we're set. We're moving. We've closed the hearing. So I guess we just got a few things left.
You adjourned it.
Adjourned it. Yes. Sorry.
So we do have a question on that.
Yes.
Because we are submitting on the 24th for the 16th meeting to get it in enough time. I believe we adjourned it to the 2nd of May.
Yeah.
Just a minute ago, right?
And we won't be at that.
But
We
would it
won't
make
have to do
sense,
the
or would it be
hearing.
possible to move it to the 16th so that when we have the information?
I think we can. We need to take another vote on it. So we'll then entertain a motion to move the public hearing, adjourn it to
16th, right?
May 6th. May 16th.
So much.
Second, all in favor? Aye.
And at least we'll have it.
Okay, so we've moved it then. So now that's taken care of very well.
And
Anything from you?
just one other thing, HPC had a questions. They scheduled us for a public hearing on May 8th. Then there was discussion between the board as to whether or not they needed a public hearing because there was some ambiguity in the code on just referring their recommendations to the planning board because it's outside of the district, I guess. So they were getting with Corey on that. So I don't know if that's been communicated yet right now. Okay. So we will see if Corey can opine on that sooner than later.
I want to make a note about Corey.
Yeah, I believe he's of the opinion that the HPC review
is what is intended. that you put-
That's,
Okay.
half the board felt that way and the other half didn't. So,
Yeah. Okay.
okay, so then, okay.
Yeah, we just need the board to decide so that at that meeting, they can either formally make a recommendation or not.
Okay.
So you have what you need to move forward, basically.
I think outside of that, we really have about everything we need. And unless there are any further concerns that come in from the public that need to be addressed immediately, I think that's pretty much it for right now.
From what we heard, it's,
Yeah.
the items were.
Okay. And please, review the tape. Speak with, the project coordinator here about those comments. And, if you, again, I always advise this to applicants, if you get the opportunity, please meet with the community that had the comments. That helps in many ways to clear the air, to be definitive about things and to address concerns that they have. And it's very, very helpful.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So next, we're going to move to PB 2211, 137 North Chestnut Street. So very first thing that we start on is what we just finished discussing, discussed with the applicant, building inspector's determination, they need a variance from the maximum side yard setback 0 to 15 feet. So that's the first issue. And I think we just didn't we just clear that up.
Yeah. I think that Justin Dates, Colliers Engineering and Design, I think you're asking us, right?
Well, no, I'm just kind of generally asking.
Oh, okay.
Is this exactly the same?
Yeah, it is exactly the same.
What we just had.
Yeah.
So that is, in essence, pretty much.
So I met with Corey Friday.
Uh-huh.
And we had a conversation that he was referring the information that we gave to him to Will Frank regarding the discrepancies between the two codes. And I'm just reading the letter now.
Justin, do you have a plan that shows what we're describing? Yeah.
And so this may be the determination that Mr. Frank came back with, so I don't know, because I haven't spoken to Corey today.
You have a copy of that, Autumn?
Side yards.
We have them online, but they're this big and they're, yeah.
Oh, the letter. Yeah, no, I have this. I was looking at.
Okay. So. With regards to this letter that we're seeing right now. I think they're under, well, general New York state law is that if there's any ambiguities in the code, it must be interpreted in favor of the property owner. Just because this provision that he's saying right here is his interpretation of the code, doesn't mean it should be interpreted for our project. Interpreting the other provision for the KES property doesn't change how this should be interpreted in favor of this property owner. So this discrepancy, I think, needs to be discussed with him again, because it would require trailing to seek a variance and Baxter to also seek a variance for opposite parts of the code. So when interpreting an ambiguity like this, since there's two properties at issue, they should just be interpreted in whatever favor it works for the property owner. So because trail length is over the 15-foot maximum, they shouldn't be required to seek a variance, because in the other section of the code, there's a 15-foot minimum. And just like for KES Chestnut properties, because they're over that limitation, they shouldn't have to seek a variance, because one of their provisions should be interpreted in their favor. Am I saying that?
Yeah, specifically what is important to note here, and this was presented to Corey, and maybe Mr. Frank opined and maybe he didn't. But the specific case that's important to note, it's an Ulster County case. It comes out of the 3rd Department of the Supreme Court of the State of New York. Concrete Inc. versus the Zoning Board of Appeals of the town of Saugerties. It's a 2000 case that has not been overturned, and it states that well-established but contravening that the zoning restrictions are under arbitration of the common law, and in such must strictly construed against the municipality which enacted and seeks to enforce them, and that any ambiguity in the language employed must be resolved in favor of the property owner. The court held that where the court found ambiguity in the interpretation of the town of Saugerties zoning code, section 8.3.1, the court found its context convincingly demonstrates that the ambiguity is properly resolved in the landowner's favor, and the court will strictly construe it against the municipality, particularly where a contrary interpretation would subject the landowner's property to a lengthy and involved process contemplated by a site plan approval, or in this case, a zoning variance.
Okay.
So
what is the ambiguity that we see here?
the ambiguity, Mr. Chairman, is that in the bulk code, it says that there is a 15-foot minimum setback. And in the NBR regulations, it says a 0 to 15-foot maximum setback. So one says 15-foot maximum, the other says 15-foot minimum.
So
What's
it's the minimum versus the maximum.
right?
Yeah, and the maximum was intended to create that sort of urban context of keeping the buildings close to the street and having that feel. But the minimum is meant to be kind of like the spirit of a setback for the benefit of neighboring properties, et cetera.
And where the real challenge, not to step on Justin, but the real challenge would come in with a 15-foot maximum, is it would require most every site to have 2 curb cuts, separate curb cuts, which we have not asked DOT about, but I'm pretty confident they would have a strong objection to on the state highway of having 2 curb cuts for a project like this.
Is it possible that the law that says that it needs to be approved in favor of the landowner isn't a variance an approval? So if we refer to it to the
So it's not an approval in favor of the landowner. The interpretation of the zoning code needs to be in favor of the landowner. So the provision of the code that doesn't require a variance would be what is in favor of that applicant. So since there is a minimum of 15 feet, interpreting the code under the bulk requirements would be in favor of this applicant.
Right. And that's just something that we're gonna have to wait for Mr. Frank and our attorney.
Yeah, it's effectively making us go through another step and, spending additional resources.
Because it was poorly written.
Because there was some error or conflict. I wouldn't say poorly, but someone didn't weigh the 2 equities to sort through that detail.
Okay, all right, so let's move on then. Other issues that are noted here, and I'm sure you have all of these, and so hopefully we'll go through and do a check off as we did in the last group. Proposed.
This is, we're just seeing this tonight.
You see this tonight?
We got a new letter.
I don't know what-
Yeah, we have Corey's letter. During.
Okay, there are other issues that I think, the following remaining comments were previously raised in memos for 3/7 and 3/21 meetings. No new submission has been made by the applicant since that meeting, so there is no need to discuss these again tonight. But they were, and we'll certainly get you these as well. Proposed alterations to the exterior of the structure must be reviewed by the HPC. Does this all sound, it doesn't sound familiar, I can see by your face.
Well, we've been through 3 meetings with the
Okay.
HPC and we're continuing our review with them.
Okay. Outstanding items addressed before the planning board can make a determination of significance under seeker. Specifically, the board needs engineering review of the proposed water and sewer demand, which is a big issue that we've got there. So let's just move past that right now. That's one that we're in process
Can I
working.
ask a question about that, John?
Yes.
This applicant waived this 62-day time
Yes.
frame, but the other applicant, as far as I know, has not
Has
waived
not.
that.
They didn't close their public hearing the other, you
Right,
didn't close the
still
public
open.
hearing.
Right.
Yeah.
But they, how does that 62-day limit, how does this engineering review of the water sewer capacity affect that 62-day limit? If this interferes with our ability to move any applications forward, I imagine that clock stops.
That's a good question. Now, you've given us the a waiver on the 62 days, an extension.
This applicant
This
has,
applicant.
145 has not.
Correct, but they are still in the,
Yeah, but I'm just asking a general question. If this water sewer review suspends the approval of any new applications,
I don't know. And that's a good question. And that's just something that I don't know. And that's something that Will Frank and our attorney are gonna have to get together and create a solution.
sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, that's okay. It's
Related.
What was your question? If
The
it's-
question is if there's a 62-day timeline for our review and decision, and this review of the water sewer capacity and upgrade requirement suspends our ability to continue to proceed with a approval, then does the 62-day time limit sort of continue on because we weren't able to make an approval? This could take months to do.
Two separate issues. One is a seeker related issue.
Yeah.
The water sewer issue is completely aside. If your public hearing is still open, your 62-day clock has not run. Upon the closure of your public hearing, that clock starts ticking regardless of any other issues you may have.
Okay, but what if in 61 days, we're ready to say, make an approval of an applicant like this and the water sewer review is not complete?
And you don't have a waiver from the applicant?
And can't, right?
You can make a conditional approval of an application. That's pretty much subject to their ability to being able to connect.
Yeah.
That's effectively your option, or you can ask an applicant to waive their and
What we
extend
would
your.
probably do is
Pass that out.
that's that waiver. Yeah. So,
Thanks.
But just on that point, we did appear in front of the village board last week on that subject.
Mhm.
They have commissioned Dennis Larios. We've agreed to share in the cost of the study, and that's underway. So we're anticipating in that, and that's moving forward.
okay. Parking calculation includes reduction for residential and office mixed-use properties. That's gonna, again, this is all gonna come to you. This is, you're looking at me like you've never heard this before.
Yeah, I guess that was part of the review from DTS. They confirmed our compliance with the parking code.
The last meeting, in fact.
Yeah.
Need to provide a copy of the amended Central Hudson easement to confirm the improvements in the easement area.
They are, Central Hudson is in the process of drafting a revised easement. So we were staying in contact with them and we'll get that document to the board as soon as it's available. Yeah.
As previously discussed, the applicant will need to comply with the village's affordable housing laws.
we did provide a letter to the board previously that said we would comply and it would, based on the unit count of 51 for the project, we're providing 6 affordable housing units.
Okay. So really, those are the issues that are still outstanding, and we'll get you a copy of all of this, those that aren't, so you'll know where the status is on it.
Okay. One thing also to add, Mr. Warner mentioned it kind of during the public hearing, the need for a variance for the building height. We're waiting for correspondence from Corey on that, but that will be removed as a need for the project. So again, we're just looking for, the formal correspondence from Corey, but the need for that variance is going to be removed.
Apparently in Corey's initial review and in our second submission, when we changed the parapet height, it wasn't picked up on that our roof deck height was below the 35-foot maximum height, and that the parapet itself does not count towards the building height. So therefore, we were never required to have a height variance when we put the 37-foot 4-inch height in with the parapet height. So
Okay.
we're not requiring a variance at this point for that purpose.
Okay. Anything else that you guys can?
Yeah, one of the other items, so you talked about kind of adding or modifying the traffic table and looking at existing conditions and delays. I think we do have that prepared. I can give it to the board and I will provide the digital to Autumn tomorrow. But ultimately it didn't change, the determination or the conclusion of the project, but it breaks it up per your request.
Show the impact in distinct
delays. Yeah, it shows like we've removed, so we have the existing 2022 conditions, then 2025 with just the project and not the other developments. And you'll see there's little to no really increase in delays from that particular, scenario. With exception, I believe, with 299 and 32. Of course, that was the bigger one.
Right.
Yeah. But everything else you'll see in here.
I was sitting there yesterday thinking of you all for Sunday.
So
Like, this feels like an F to me.
and I like I said, I omitted
Thank you for considering that additional.
there's 70 pages or so of the analysis on how we got to those conclusions. I didn't include that, but it will be part of the digital component. And it also includes that we were waiting for accident data for the additional intersections that we studied. We got that back from DOT. This also summarizes those findings.
Okay.
So, and that wasn't any comment from DTS. It was just, discussed with the board and requested. So we did put that together.
2025, no build, no development. 2025, build, no development. 2025, no build traffic volumes with other development, then build traffic volumes with other development. Okay, all right, that's pretty thorough. Okay. Yeah, those are all the things we were looking at.
Yeah.
The last
So
4
there is
pages
such
are
thing as an E.
right.
It's not like school where.
No. They give you that one other letter in there to
Yeah. Problematic. But I get it.
last just item I had at the 21st meeting, the board was referring the project back to Ulster County Planning because of the modifications we had made with reduction of the commercial and additional units. We have not seen anything. I'm just curious if the board has gotten any feedback on that.
No. What day was that done?
The referral was at the March 21st meeting. I don't know when the official sending of the information got up to them, but
What would that be? Okay. Anything else? Okay. All right, so, we will get that information to you so that you have it. I've made notes of what's in process. Letter's been provided on a couple of items here. We'll have Mr. Frank weigh in on the, and Corey, on the minimum versus maximum. We're stuck on seeker. DTS confirm them. So really, yeah, we're kind of at a standstill for a moment.
Okay. With the sewer study, if you're speaking to Mr. Larios,
I
advise him we're
haven't
happy-
spoken to him, but I'll make it
Okay.
a point.
Yeah, I mean,
to-
we're happy to meet, or, if he needs any additional information regarding our project, of course, we're happy to share.
No, I don't know what he needs, but I travel tomorrow. I'll be back in town Friday, so I'll try to reach out to the mayor and to Dennis. I hate to ask this, but would you give me send me a reminder of that, just give me a call on that. And we'll try to at least get a status update, see what's going on with it, where it is, who's doing what.
That'd be great. Appreciate it.
Yeah. That's pretty important for a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, it's one of the things we're eager to hear back on for sure.
So that's it. Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you for waiting.
Appreciate it.
It's been a long night. Thank you very much. So that brings us to the last item on our agenda, a motion to adjourn. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Autumn, you want to go ahead and close this down?